Jack Gunther was one of the leading citizens behind the purchase of Waveney Park in 1967. He sort of led the effort to get the town referendum to raise the money to buy Waveney Park. And I think the experience he had there was such that in order for the town to acquire a piece of land, it was a very big process of council meetings and fundraising and such. And he thought a land trust, which is a private corporation, could act more nimbly and look at other property deals. And I think there were two aspects to it. One is, with the almost gift of Waveney Park, there were other citizens in New Canaan who thought, hey, we might be able to do something as well, but on a smaller scale, which isn't really easy for the town to handle. And Jack recognized the opportunity for a land trust to be a organization that could collect and assemble parcels of open space.
So the mission of the New Canaan Land Trust is to protect and steward open space in the town of New Canaan. So open space is defined as anything from parks to kind of natural protected areas, but we kind of focus on those wildlife sanctuaries and wooded areas or meadows where we're protecting habitat for wildlife and then also sometimes allowing visitation on the properties for our community to enjoy. There's a whole host of reasons why conservation is important. One of the main reasons that I tell people most often is that we're protecting drinking water quality. So about 70% of the homes in New Canaan get their water from wells. And so protecting groundwater is vitally important for the town. It's also important just to protect habitat for native species. And then a lot of our preserves also provide recreational opportunities for people that want to go walk their dogs or just go for a hike in the woods. There's also kind of other benefits like carbon sequestration, and yeah, there's really no downside to protecting open space.
I think conservation is really a three-part engagement with the natural world. The first one is really personal, and when you begin to interact with the natural world and understand the beauty of it and the connection of it, it makes you a better person and connects you with something that is deep in who you are as a spiritual person and as a person of the earth. And then the second one is really a steward of your community and being involved in your community and understanding how everybody else can be a part of it and benefit from it. And then the third one is really beyond the community, which is, you know, some of our land, for example, is pathways for birds to go from Canada to South America. And so it's really part of a global way of being connected to the planet and helping, you know, shepherd and steward both at the local level, the personal level, and the global level, really.
The Land Trust, with the help of its membership, about 250 households, and its donors of land, today protects almost 400 acres of land. And of that 400, about 150 of it is available for visitation. The other 250 is either too fragmented or spread about or too fragile for visitation.
So one of the big initiatives we've been working on is sort of taking the land trust model of how we're stewarding our land and how we're taking care of our woodlands and caring for our meadows and trying to get people to apply that to their own property. So not necessarily acquiring new parcels, but sort of adopting this philosophy town-wide. So rather than having big expansive lawns, people could be planting meadows and kind of maintaining pollinator habitat and promoting the growth of native wildflowers and grasses on their lawn instead of just having what is essentially an ecological desert in what is a traditional lawn.
If over 50 years we've accumulated 400 acres, that's about 8 acres a year, that we continue to accumulate land as permanently protected open space for the next 50 years. And so that maybe in 2068 or 2067, there are 800 acres of preserved open space in New Canaan.
So the Land Trust is sort of in a real upswing right now. We just got through the acquisition of the Silver Mine Fowler Preserve, which was 6.5 acres of woodlands and soon to be meadow and wetland and pond that all adjoin to another 40 acres that the Land Trust also holds. We've also been doing a lot of community engagement, so working with Eagle Scouts and Girl Scouts and high schoolers like yourselves on project. We have our summer stewardship program, which is relatively new. So we've been doing a lot in the last 5 or so years, kind of increasing the amount of land that we're protecting, as well as sort of engaging people in the protection and stewardship of those properties.
We are part of not only our own community, but we're part of the land trusts in Connecticut. Connecticut has one of the biggest groups of land trust organizations in the country and around the country, so we can really preserve all of these places. A lot of people say that, you know, land that's public is really free, and I would say it's really priceless. It's something that you can't get back when you give it away.
There's this deep belief that if we don't make available or preserve these open spaces for your generation, what happens? Eventually people just lose track of it and they say, well, we're just one big urban structure, and that the beauty of nature slowly disappears from our lives. And this is an effort to say, no, it won't. It'll be here forever. We'll preserve it.
I like to think that we're not really causing too much change, but if anything, we're sort of keeping things the same. And so New Canaan is a sort of rural town, even though it's really close to New York. I've heard some people refer to it as sort of the first town in New England, and that as soon as you leave New York, you're kind of in this metropolis, but then you hit New Canaan, you're in a nice wooded area. And so a lot of what we're doing is sort of preserving this rural character of the town by keeping these woodlands intact and keeping meadows in a nice stewarded and mown condition, and protecting wetlands and sort of preventing a lot of development from occurring.
New Canaan is a special place, and it has great school systems, it has great families, and in some ways there should be some element of leadership from a town like New Canaan in terms of the environment and protecting the environment and the diversity of our environment for nature as well. So there is a role for New Canaan to develop its future financiers in the country, future doctors in the country, future lawyers in the country, but it would also be great if New Canaan developed future conservation leaders, future environmentalists, people who are more sensitive to the world around us as well. And either they do it early in their lives or later in their lives, but they come back to it. And I strongly believe that as young people, if you are exposed to the wonders of outdoors and walking in the woods, it stays with you for the rest of your life. It's something you come back to and support.